when we asked members of the village what they were interested in talking to you about. You're an expert in the topic of self-compassion, and what they were most interested was how to teach it to other people, like how to teach self-compassion to their kids.
Right.
And
that misses the point.
Yes. So talk about why that misses the point.
Yeah. Well, see, most people are much more compassionate to others than they are to themselves. As a matter of fact, they don't even necessarily go hand in hand, because it's always in the direction of, there's many people who are very compassionate to others, great parents, very loving, giving, caring, do service work at the church, all of that, and beat themselves up. It doesn't go the other way. You don't find anyone who's self-compassionate who isn't compassionate to others. So really the place to start if you want to learn about self-compassion is yourself. It has to be a personal practice. And with kids, it's very, very important that you model self-compassion. If you give your kids self-compassion as one more thing they got to do, as opposed to demonstrating it firsthand yourself, it's not really going to fly. So for instance, if you drop a glass and you say, oh, I'm such an idiot, right, in front of your kid, that's what they're going to internalize. Oh, I see, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to put myself down. I'm supposed to criticize myself. Whereas if you drop the glass and you say, I love that glass. It was only human. It happens. And then that type of message, they're going to internalize that much more. So you really do have to start with yourself. And it also gives you the resources to sustain being compassionate to others without burning out or, succumbing to caregiver fatigue, which a lot of us do. So empathy is when you resonate with the emotions of others. And when you resonate with the emotion of someone in distress, whether it's your child or just anyone, you feel that distress through your mirror neurons. So when you're with someone with distress, you feel distress. So compassion is different than empathy. Compassion not only feels the pain of others, but holds that pain with kindness, with care, with connectedness. And compassion is actually a positive emotion and activates the reward centers of your brain. So empathy without compassion leads to burnout, empathy fatigue. But empathy with compassion doesn't lead to burnout, just the opposite. It gives us an important source of strength and coping so that we can sustain caring for others. So, and that's compassion for others, but then you add self-compassion into the mix, and it's especially strong because when you're with someone who's suffering, I've talked a lot about this, raising my autistic son. He would have these horrific tantrums, in public, and it was just really overwhelming. And I would put about 95% of my attention on myself, supporting myself, being kind to myself, being there for myself, saying, it's so hard, I feel so overwhelmed, it's going to be okay. It's really focusing on myself. And actually that's what allowed me not to be overwhelmed by his distress, and also what allowed me to, not be so burned out. And I found the more I gave, and here's the thing about this empathy, it goes two ways. A lot of caregivers don't realize this. You get stressed out by your kid when they're in stress, right? Because you feel their pain as your own. But they're also completely picking up on what you're feeling at the pre-verbal level. We're born this way because a lot of parent-child communication occurs before language is developed. So we're actually born to feel the emotions of others. Babies know if their parents are kind and loving and caring, or if they're distracted, or if they're angry, or they're depressed. We don't need language. So if you're being hard on yourself and you're being judgmental and you're feeling depressed or frustrated or angry with yourself, your child is picking up on your mental state through their mirror neurons. But if, on the other hand, you're being kind and compassionate towards yourself, warm with yourself, you're feeling connected in this experience of common humanity, your child is also resonating with that. So that's another really important reason why you can't just teach your child to do it. If you do it for yourself, your child, through their own mirror neurons and their empathetic resonance, will pick up on your compassionate mindset. So it helps them directly through modeling and also indirectly through empathic resonance. So, it's really, people really don't understand that emotions aren't a singular event. Emotions are shared. Emotions are contagious. We co-create emotions. So what you create inside your own head directly impacts your child.
I have a memory that we talked about this maybe in a previous interview about how some practices that you have on how to have self-empathy for yourself. And I think one of them was you were talking about like placing your hand on your heart. Could you go over those and like some practices that you've seen for self-empathy?
So we really encourage people to find a type of touch that feels caring and supportive to them. So for some people, putting both hands over the heart really works. But only about half of people. A lot of people, they don't feel good at all. It feels weak or it causes anxiety. Fist over heart with the hand, kind of like love, strength with love type of gesture, that feels better. Some people like their stomach area, like their center area. They feel kind of touching their core. That feels like it gives them strength and stabilizes them. A lot of people actually respond to this gesture, because many of us as children, our face was cradled by someone who loved us, a grandparent or someone like that. So for a lot of people, this really works. Some people like the self hug, for many people it's too much.
Like that.
It's like holding their own hand. So we really encourage people to find a type of touch that works for you, and then use that as a resource when you're upset to remind yourself, first of all, physically remind yourself of your own presence, your own support, and your own care. And also bring in some feelings of warmth to the equation. And it makes a huge difference because it actually works at the physiological level. As human beings, our parasympathetic, so our sympathetic nervous system is the fight, flight, or freeze response. It's when we get upset, it's cortisol. It's like the, when your kid's tantruming, that response. Parasympathetic increases heart rate variability. It helps us calm down. It helps us regulate our emotions. And one of the key activators of the parasympathetic nervous response is touch. So you can actually change your own physiology, release oxytocin, opiates, feel-good hormones by the simple act of touching yourself. So it's not to be underestimated. It's a very powerful tool for changing your emotional mind state. If you touch yourself in a way and it makes you feel uneasy, it's not a good touch for you. And people are really different. So if it makes you feel uneasy or jittery or kind of vulnerable or some people that actually, sometimes the touch release trauma memories. I mean, that's not a good touch for you, right? So you want to find a touch where it's just like, oh, this helps me feel safe. This helps me feel supported and cared for. If you can. Some people, and it depends, but maybe especially people with trauma histories, it's actually self-touch is not so good. Something like petting your cat or your dog, maybe it's a better type of touch, which is one reason service animals can be so powerful. So, but finding some form of touch that helps you feel safe and supported and cared for is a really powerful way to, again, regulate your nervous system response.
Okay, thanks. I definitely am going to experiment more with that. I think that's not something that's really clear to me. I don't immediately go, oh yeah, that's that for me, or even just you
gotta explore, try it out, and just it only takes a couple minutes. Check it out, and again, you're looking for something that makes you feel safe and supported.